in demonstration, in research, in programs, direct services to our community. And yet, what percentage of that does our community get? And Carmen did a good job of presenting the numbers and the stats of how our need grows, our community grows. And yet, if we had someone, and I challenge any one of our deans and university people here to do an analysis, how much goes to our community? Just to DHHS, never mind the other departments in Washington. And we will be shocked at how little goes to our community. Thank you, Ella. That's a challenge for us, okay?
Yeah, I'd just like to address the panel. Nobody has mentioned the very high disproportionate amount of Latino prisoners who are coming out. What kinds of things are you proposing as leaders to do to serve them so that they won't go back to prison again? And that's, I think that's a big question of the nation. I don't even New York City, the whole nation.
Well, to be correct, I have worked in less than 9 places. I worked at federal government. I worked for the Child Support Enforcement Program for about 8 years. So I used to tell people I worked with child support and they did 2 steps back. I don't know. And so I would say that 80% of the customers that I had in child support enforcement were guys who were in jail, guys who have been incarcerated. Some of them owed unbelievable amounts of money. In many cases, money they would never be able to repay. So there are many challenges to the incarcerated population. Getting them jobs, getting them trained, a lot of mental health issues, alcoholism, drug addiction, domestic violence. You know, there are many, many challenges once you get there. What I'm trying to do in my limited way, because of the funds in the agency, what I run, which is STAR programs, and I am truly convinced about this. Why is it that our children never make it out of high school? Why they don't finish? What happens to them? What happens to those children? And I am convinced, at least partly, not that this is the answer to it. Now, I'm not going to ask any who has children, but when was the last time you tried to help somebody with fractions? Or algebra? That's what it takes for parents to help kids stay in school. A lot of our parents, by the time those kids get to the 4th or the 5th grade, they can no longer help the kids.
Yeah, but the parents themselves are having problems. That's all it is.
Yes, yes. So what I'm trying to do in our system is to try and help those parents of young children today. I talked about aspirations before. What are their aspirations? We need to find ways to help those parents develop skills, get educated, get trained, find ways to help their kids. We already have a generation out there in jail. Unfortunately, it's going to be really difficult to make a difference. We're going to continue. We have no choice. But we also have to look at the future, at those children that are going to be eventually the very same customer you're obligated to today.
I know we can't touch on everything, but I'm glad you brought up the question of ex-offenders. But Yvonne, I have to say, we haven't spoken to education. And the fact that the New York City public schools do not prepare our children to get through high school, to college, and on to professional career. Let's hold the schools accountable. And that's an important arena. I hope it gets touched on later. This gentleman over here. Hi.
Good morning. My name is Barry Guzman, and I'm a former deputy director with the Administration of Youth Services and I'm prosecution manager. And I was excited when I came to this conference, but I'm kind of disappointed because I briefly saw on the board there disproportionality in foster care setting. I know this is a huge topic. I know it's not just a New York State problem. I know it's not just a Washington Heights problem. It's not just an East Harlem problem. It's not just an Illinois problem, and so on and so forth. is a country problem, and it's really something that's striking the country. And I guess my question or my comment is, what are we going to do as social workers, as professionals, to sort of change this trend, to come up with strategies? Because foster care to me, and I've been doing this job for 26 years, it's not the answer. I mean, it's really the problem if you think of it. These are your kids that, I mean, I haven't done research, but I've done a lot of reading. These are the same kids that are going to end up in jail. These are the same kids that are going to develop mental illness. This is the same population that we're going to continue to recycle and move on with forward. So in that respect, I'm not very long. I came here to take it back to my agency. And I'm hoping that if it's not done now, that it's going to be brought to the table at some point in the future.
Thank you. We could have an entire conference on just the disproportionality of children of color in the child welfare system. In fact, we've had a few of them over the years with ACS sponsorship. But Denise, you want to say something?
I'm not going to try and totally answer that question because I didn't focus on sort of the community level needs and the issue of children and families, and we do operate a foster care program. But I do want to say quickly that one of the concerns I have and what I see happening is that the children that are entering the system are coming in with significantly higher needs than in the past. And they're multi-system children. And one of the questions that always comes up is, whose child is this? Does the child belong to foster care? Do they belong to the mental health system? Do they belong to the juvenile justice system? And when you have those multi-system children, in my experience, nobody wants to step up and do what needs to be done by that child. So I think we could have a whole conference on this issue, and maybe it's something we should do it.
Carmen?
Yes.
Can I just respond
Yes,
to?
Robert.
We are doing some work at ACS around providing training on racial disproportionality and cultural competency that started with ACS staff across 3 divisions and has now, we are tied to doing quantitative and qualitative research with a project that is extending this same work to the provider agencies, the 30 some odd contract agencies, provider agency partners. And so that is underway as we speak now. And we're doing work with Hunter College, or at least a professor from Hunter College who's going to be doing qualitative research on the actual training and its effectiveness. And it basically runs out of the, it's in much part out of the Undoing Racism training that is pretty much spreading like wildfire in the United States. So we are doing some really good things, and we'll keep you posted on what those outcomes are.
Thank you, Robert. I forgot to mention some of those associations that we have. Wurzweiler has a child welfare grant with the federal government, and we've been doing enormous amounts of training with ACS around disproportionality and working with Latino communities. Hi.
Good morning. Does it work?
Buenos días. I don't know if you feel like me, but whenever I come to a conference, I always come hesitant whether or not I'm going to be learning. And I have to tell you that from this panel, I have learned a whole lot, a great deal. I want to point out something that the person from Esteban Ramos, from the First Youth Initiatives, I was so glad that you shared that comment about the young kid that was crying and now is in Albany. I think that one of the challenges that I will put in place for especially for the students here, is the following. I think that we have to just make sure that we have our voices heard through the media. Things like the First Youth Initiatives are not shared. Those are nuestros tesoros, right? So that has to be shared with the media. We don't hear good things about what is happening with our services, with our community agencies. And this is something that should be shared. The other day, I want you to be aware of something that you should be doing as students, and we as leaders in our own agencies. Things that come up in articles, like in the New York Times, last Tuesday, page 819. I even memorized it. They were talking about an initiative that they have in order to counter-effect the low enrollment of Latinos in the specialized high schools. Last year in Stuyvesant High School, just like Dr. Heinrichs was saying, they only admitted 8 Hispanic students in Stuyvesant and 13 Black students. And they were talking about an initiative that they are giving tutoring to students in areas such as Washington Heights. Now they're going to do something in the Bronx. And they were talking about that the alumni are trying to outreach students in those particular community areas. But then the last paragraph said, we have this program and we have all the resources, but the difficult part is to find the students that can participate. And right away I thought, I hope that there's an outburst of letters to the editor saying, the students are there, you just have to find them. But people like me, I'm a counselor at a college at Ostos. I've been there 31 years, and I'm so proud of it. But we have so many things, and I want to write, and I'm not a good writer. So I give a challenge to you, students of social work. If you're good writers, take that challenge. Try to always be on top of the news, and whenever you see something that talks against us, just write down a letter and say, the students are there, we want to learn, there are students that will be more than capable to be in those schools if you give them the right opportunities, just like Dr. Henry was saying. So I'm just saying the challenge is for us to always be there on top of things, and always be saying, this was bad, but this is good. And always keep sharing the good things that we've been doing, because we're too silent. And that silence has been killing us. At Ostos, we started giving things in Spanish. And right now, I can tell you, I feel so sad, because things are not happening like that at Ostos. Because those things were valued in the past, and now we want to be so multicultural that being Hispanic is maybe not so good. Look at it. We want to embrace everybody, but who's embracing our Latino kids? That's the question that we have to all place in our heads. Thank you.
Thank you. Yvonne, can you take maybe 2 more? 2, 3?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Over here.
Good morning, I'm Pat White from the New York Community Press. I was encouraged by a comment that was made by the keynote speaker. And if I were to paraphrase it, the comment suggests that the thing that unifies all of us in this room is the fact that we have selected a profession which says that we have chosen an area of work in which we have a commitment to seeking remedies. So that the conversation for today, for me, is not necessarily a conversation about services or about social welfare, but rather about the profession and how the profession is viewed as a solution or as an avenue for a solution. Sometime during the day, it would be helpful if we could have a conversation around what are some of the unifying ways in which the profession is elevated. So that, because one of the pieces of work that we're doing now is spending a bit of time talking about the connection between social work practice, education, and research. And I'm certain that I don't need to say to this audience that they are all connected. However, it is work that is being done by many disciplines, and while many of us support social services, it is never directly linked to the social work profession. And so it begins to beg the question of where is the profession in both articulating, celebrating, and acknowledging what the profession is advancing as best practice and as research that is based in the profession. And I think until we get to this question of what is the link to the profession, not the service, not the program, but the profession, we run the risk of other disciplines stepping in and doing what we do, but it is never called, never linked to the profession. So some conversation around what's the connection to the profession. It was interesting that as many people talk, they wore their social work hat, but the work was not posited in the profession. And I think we need to take a look at that disconnect.
I think we will have opportunities. We'll have opportunities to talk over lunch. We'll have opportunities with our other two panels this afternoon and at the town hall meeting. So bring that issue back up again, okay? I think, wait, okay, one more.
Buenos días. My name is David Ortiz. I'm the program director and I direct case management and health service for the Puerto Rican Family Institute. I enter social services to help community, and I embrace the fact of the education that we receive of the problems we have. But I think there's something more important, that change happens with little steps. Sometimes we try to take too much into account, make significant changes, and we don't realize that what we can change is what is around us, what is something that we can hold. One of the things that I embrace very, and I love that they say that we have to have our youth, our future leaders, become leaders, but in order to do so, they have to be given a hand, a commitment between all those CEOs, all those presidents, the deans right here saying, I'm committed for today, and I'm going to go ahead and mentor one of those people that is working will be the very first step to make this as possible. But that doesn't happen. We talk about the problems, but we don't seek solutions. Solutions are very small. We talk about funding. Yes, we all know that funding is rare, and it's very difficult getting those RFPs. But why doesn't the task force create a program where they teach us how to be successful in doing the RFP? A very small thing that can create change. Change does not happen by division. Is it a consumer or consumer? Is it a consumer or client? No. Change happens when we get together and do little steps to help those that need us. Who cares if they're called consumers? Who cares if they're called clients? They're people in need. They need us, and we are there for them. And every day, all of you go out there to help those individuals, those human beings just like us.
That thanks to Dilcia Granville, we have an alumni group of all our scholarship recipients, and she is in constant touch with them, asking for what their needs are, what we can do as a task force. We'd like to see our scholarship graduates mentor our students now, so that we can set up a mentorship program among the small group of 55 alumni from the scholarship.
I wanted to address that. We have an example here at Steven.
Yeah.
It's an example of our leadership and the mentorship, and Steven to testify.
And the other students here also.
Yeah, we have all this, but Steven is an example. So can you tell us how we have
The task, honestly, I mean, to my understanding, I'm one of the first scholarship recipients to join the task force. And it's just an honor to be at those meetings, to sit around this table that's larger than this one here, around these distinguished, successful individuals. The guidance, the hugs in the morning, the coffee, but also beyond that, it's just them willing and able to touch base with me, provide me with guidance and advice in many moments in my professional development. are things that are invaluable. So, I take advantage of that fully. And it's something that I feel very blessed to be a part of.
Okay, we have just a couple of minutes. I'm going to take one from here, and I'll let you say something too, okay? I can't resist, and I'll let you say something. Okay, 3 more, and that'll be it.
Hi everyone, my name is Haben Abraham. I'm an MSW student at Columbia University. I just want to thank everyone for their comments today. I wanted to address Dr. Ortiz Hendricks. You made a comment earlier that said, according to the census, there are 50.5 million Hispanics. And I just wanted to bring people's attention to the number of unreported persons, particularly within New York City alone. And this is particularly speaking about survivors of human trafficking. And my internship this semester is in dire need of linguistically and culturally competent social workers. With the influx of Hispanic survivors of human trafficking, this need is outrageous, and the fact that there are certain services that are not in place where connections haven't been made with Spanish-speaking practitioners. I am here today with a volunteer list. Please, around lunchtime, I will be going around. I will step up to every single person.
What's your agency?
Restore NYC. It's a nonprofit organization that basically provides holistic healing, counseling for its clients and those survivors of human trafficking. So if you are interested, if you are an LCSW or an MSW and you are Spanish speaking, please find me. I will take down your information and you'll be contacted. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. You're a future leader.
Good morning. My name is Dennis Camacho. I'm pretty much involved in the community. I'm also PTA president of my daughter's school, which is presently on the list of closing. Unfortunately, last semester we got an F grade. As we study the situation and we have a new administration, a lot of things have changed. But if we expect the parents who are working hard, who probably don't have the time, we also have the school. My school don't have a lot of resources, don't have a lot of books. Kids don't take the books home to learn. We have a library that is empty, and right now we are facing some difficult times because most of the students who pass will pass with like very little grade, and most of them are coming to this country and they don't speak the language well, and they expect in 6 months to take a test and pass the test as any other person who will live here for 10, 20 years. We have so much expectations on kids, and sometimes our expectations are not realistic. So the problem is that it takes a village to raise a kid. In order for us to raise our kids right, we need the whole community to work together. We need to bring our resources together. We need to bring our community to understand that there's other needs besides the school. The parents are trying to survive because they don't have the minimal income to make it to pay the rent. And there's a lot of other issues behind that. So we need to understand that if the parents are not educated or not prepared to teach the kids, then we need to have the system prepared to provide individual counseling or instructions, or even have after-school programs where the kids can learn, and then we could actually help them improve on their skills. I'll be honest with you, if it's not because of my speed, I would not be standing here because my counselor told me that I'm not a college material. And I'm disappointed in him because I was a good college material. Who's here today, who happens to be one of my guidance counselors, is an inspiration for me to move on and stay involved in the community. So let's raise expectations, but let's have a support system where the kids can learn from and they feel comfortable, and not only that, but they feel good about themselves. Because that's what's going to happen.
Last comment here.
Hi, my name is Loretta Rodriguez, Dr. Rodriguez, and I've been in the field a long time. And I've been out of the federal government for about a couple of years now. I was in there for 18 years, so I can now say the following. Carmen, you put some statistics out that were not only very revealing, which most of us know, but can be very impactful. And I think that service is one thing, and politics is another thing. When you deal with politics, you can then deal with negative immigration laws, inequity in terms of resources, inequity in terms of how money is given out, you name it, it can work with it. So I would like to propose that an action step from the task force be the following. I think you need a task force in terms of political action. Political action in terms of federal representation to federal government, representation to state government, representation to city government, representation to the other national La Raza. I think we need a task force that includes all of us so that the statistics that you put out, that in 2012, when the next election takes place, we inform everyone we have an impact. We are here to be counted. Whether you like us or you don't like us, we're citizens, we can vote, and you have to respond to me. Because if you try it any other way, it's not going to work. I'll be here 5 years from now, and we'll still be having issues of equity, access, fairness, that wonderful word discrimination, poor education, etc., etc., etc. Another 5 more years, the vote will pass. Our time is now in 2012. So that's why I would like to thank you. Thank you.
Perfect ending to our Q&A. Let me just let you know that lunch is available outside. You can bring your lunchbox back in here, and the luncheon speaker will begin at 12:15. So thank you, everyone, for this morning. Applaud yourselves. Come on.
Yes, thank you. Oh, second floor. Second floor, yes.
Nothing.